Hi everyone. Today I have a very special topic for my interview. We are in Berlin, and Berlin is an amazing creative city. Berlin is often called the cultural capital of Europe. There are exhibitions everywhere, concerts, performances, independent art spaces, and many of them are free or very affordable. Because of that, I was thinking a lot about what is it like to be an artist in Berlin. What does it mean to grow, to succeed, and to survive in Berlin as an artist or creative person? And because of that, I decided to speak about this topic with a very interesting guest. Her name is Dalila Cataldi. She is an Italian curator based in Berlin, working at the intersection of art, technology, and sustainability. She is a head of commercial at Weavii, a platform focused on fair monetization for artists, and she works closely with the cultural institutions, brands, and creative communities across Europe. And for those who are new on my YouTube channel, my name is Hanna. I'm a creator of YouTube channel BerlinBiz, where I explore business opportunities, startup ecosystem in Berlin, and the real stories of people who build their professional ways here in this city. And today we are talking about creativity, about entrepreneurship, and about creative people in Berlin. Let's get started and find out more.
I'm from Puglia, which is where Primitivo comes from. And if this is how I usually explain it to people. If you mention Italy as a boot, Puglia is the heel.
How it is to be Italian in Germany, in Berlin?
I have to say I'm a bit of an unconventional Italian in these terms. I've actually been always very uncomfortable in the south of Italy because people are not punctual, and I just cannot stand that. I think there's a level of determination and wanting to things to work that was always part of me. And that also arose as a reaction to how society looked like around me. Things were not working, public transportation is not a thing. In my city, we don't have any bike lanes. It's just impossible to get around. And then to see cities that actually function. I mean, I moved to the Netherlands first, which is the most functioning country, I think, in terms of just mobility. And then Vienna is also the most livable city for 3 years in a row, also for the same reason. For me, this is all extremely fascinating. And yes, of course, my parents always tell me, why don't you live in a place where the sun is shining? And the issue is that places where the sun shines usually don't have that many opportunities.
We're in a special place. It's a museum, yeah? It's an art space.
Yes. It's called Kunstraum Kreuzberg. It was actually built in 1874 or something like that, and it was a hospital for about 100 years. And then they wanted to demolish it to build some social housing, and artists, collectives, and institutions decided to squat this place, take it over, and start doing art that is socially and politically and environmentally relevant. Which is why I thought this was a relevant place for the conversation we had today.
At the beginning, I would like our viewers to get to know you better, and it's nice if you can tell us your story as an art person in Berlin. How did you end up in Berlin, and why Berlin, actually?
My passion towards the arts started very early. I've always been an admirer of art in any sense. I loved studying art history in high school. However, looking at how contemporary art was not really a thing in Italy, in the sense of there's so much focus towards the historical, the heritage aspect of our culture, that it really didn't feel like there were any opportunities from an economical perspective for me to be able to be in that world or contribute to that world. So I immediately thought, no, this is not the path for me. I'm not going to get into arts. I'm going to get into studying languages, which is what opened a lot of doors to me. And I wanted to focus a lot on sustainability because my mom is a painter, my dad is an environmental activist, so these two things have always been a bit belonging to me for a very long time. And I moved to the Netherlands when I was 18. I did a bachelor's in international studies with a focus on East Asian studies, studying Japanese, which has been
You studied Japanese.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's such a difficult language.
It is, but it's so aesthetically pleasing. I feel like with Japanese, besides from the whole pop culture aspect that I was really impressed by when I was young, the whole anime, manga, cosplay culture, that was definitely the first approach that I had towards Japanese culture. Within language, you can really find the aesthetics aspect of it, because every symbol, every kanji, every character has history, has meanings, has layers, and it has pictures within it as well. So it was a beautiful way for me to combine my passion towards arts and languages by studying Japanese. And it was with going to Japan and doing a study exchange there, I stayed there for 6 months, that I got more embedded into also the artistic aspect of Japan. I went to a lot of exhibitions, a lot of museums. And I really fell in love with the way Japanese culture understands nature and how it's connected also to art through this. I've been to many open-air museums where, for instance, there was really a connection with the artworks and the landscape, and I felt that that was very transformative for me, because the moment you talk about environmental sustainability, it can still feel very detached for a lot of people, for as long as they don't have a strong connection with it. But if you're in a beautiful landscape, if you're in a space that can also have been depleted by pollution for many years, and you have artworks that explain that, that make you feel that, that's when the transformation happens. And as soon as I felt this, I realized that's my mission, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to use art as a means, as a medium to transmit messages that with words, like words are just not enough sometimes. And art allows you to, through imagination, through collective thinking, to really make you feel things and change eventually something inside of you. So that's when I realized, okay, this is what I can do with my background and my passion, and also, you know, the education that I received from my parents. Combining art and sustainability was the thing that I wanted to focus on. So I went back to the Netherlands, COVID started, things became a bit difficult, and I found a double degree master's. There was half in Vienna at the University of Applied Arts, and half in Shanghai at the University of Environmental Design and Innovation. And the idea was exactly this, to combine art and sustainability. It was a very experimental master. Obviously, the connection with East Asia is still extremely relevant for me. And they picked 10 students for the first cohort. It was very much of a test for them. I must say it didn't work out that well. Also because due to COVID, we could never get to Shanghai and we had to get online classes instead. So yeah, that was just like a way for me to shape my path in that direction. And in the meantime, I moved to Vienna, discovered the city. It's such a beautiful city, also very thriving from the art perspective. There is a lot of money in Austria and in Vienna specifically for this sector. And I found a startup called Interwiev that does augmented reality art projects. And I really like that, because I feel like with technology, there is an additional layer that you can add to really, again, focus on the aim of transmitting a message through art. And in this case, it was actually layers, because with augmented reality, it's not fully virtual. You still have the physical artwork. And then in this case, with Interwiev, you have an app. You scan the artwork, you see the video, or you see the respective layers that will tell you a story. So there's also the storytelling aspect behind it that I was very fascinated by. And I've worked with them for more than 3 years. I became the sales and business development manager there, meaning that all of the projects that went through Interwiev during my time, they went through me. And I had to take care of everything from pitching to museum directors or institutions or brands, to finding the right artist for the right collaboration, and then manage the project and make sure that it was a successful project. And that's when I kind of really understood the impact that I wanted to have and how I could use my skills in this context in the best possible way.
Why Berlin?
Why Berlin? That's actually what happened immediately afterwards. I was very happy at Interwiev and in Vienna, but it was not giving me enough. I felt like after many years of working in the same sector, you kind of end up knowing everyone, and there's not really any further possibility for you to grow just because it's a small environment.
Oh, really?
The art circle is always very niche, but in Vienna, being also a smaller city, eventually it's always the same people. And I met the director of a museum here who offered me to become managing director of a non-profit organization that was connected to the museum, and the focus was to do art and activist projects that would support activists working for environmental sustainability and use art to communicate that. So again, we go back to my mission, and it felt like that was the job of my dreams, and that's the reason why I moved to Berlin.
What inspired you in Berlin?
I mean, I did a project first in Berlin, and I stayed here for a week before I decided to move, and that was enough for me to fall in love with the city. Just seeing how vibrant the whole art community is here and how emerging artists really still have this spirit of like, we can make things, we can do things out of nowhere with no budget. And that's something that, you know, gives inspiration, I believe, to anyone. If you see people really coming out of their shell and trying to do everything they can in order to be seen, and to see so many people, there are so many artists here in Berlin. It's the second city after New York in terms of amount of artists living in. So it just made sense for me that that was my natural next step. It's a much bigger city than every other city I've lived in. It is challenging in the sense of it takes forever to move from A to B. We all know the issues with public transportation, but at the end of the day, it's a beautiful city, and I feel like a lot of people feel lonely here, and the first year is a bit hard because it's hard for them to find the right community. But once you do, you know that it's the right community because there are so many communities. So it's just a matter of like really being clear in terms of what you're looking for and who you're looking for. And then you will find it.
So we were speaking about Italy, and you told that in Italy, unfortunately, art people cannot find the same opportunities as in Germany or in Austria or in other countries. And what's happening? Why it's like that?
I mean, it's a mixture of economical and political reasons. From a political standpoint, Italy is very corrupted and has been so for a long time. All of the money that should go also into like public funding and projects like this, for instance, they end up just going into the pockets of a few. And also generally, there is no minimum wage in Italy. The government is really right-wing, so it's not really focusing on the benefits of the common people. And this is something that our generation, I think, between Gen X and Gen Z, have been suffering a lot because of this. I know a lot of other people in any field, honestly, like even people who studied engineering and medical fields that work in McDonald's.
Oh my God.
Also because there's a lot of nepotism, you have to know the right people, or you have to already have like some sort of status in order to enter these kind of jobs. And it's not really changing in any positive way, so people are giving up. Also at the same time, inflation has been hitting, as it has everywhere in Europe. And with the lack of, again, protection from the state and minimum wages and things like that, people just end up earning the same amount, but having to pay twice the amount they used to pay like 30, 40 years ago for rents, for groceries, for all kinds of expenses. So all of the people that I know from my age that still live in Italy, or like most of them, obviously there are exceptions that I'm really happy about, but it's very difficult to get there. And most of the people that I know, they have 2 jobs and they still can't afford to make any saving whatsoever because everything goes into rent and expenses of that kind. And if you think about, you know, like if you did the same job, which we can because education is still great in Italy, abroad, then you earn twice as much, at least, sometimes even 3 times as much, because prices are really insane in Italy. And you can have a much better quality of life than most of our generation is just wondering, then why should we stay? And it comes with a lot of bitter feelings. There are a lot of people that are very connected to their lands. They never wanted to leave their families. I was pushed more by curiosity because, as I said, languages was just a way for me to get to know the world. I've always been very eager to see as many cultures and different perspectives as possible. But I know people that suffered so much about this because they wish they had the opportunity to have a career in Italy and they just can't.
You came to Berlin and you started to work in a museum, I remember you told me. So tell about your professional journey. What was challenging for you? What kind of job did you find? And your first step in Berlin as an art person?
I mean, as I said, I came here already with an opportunity, which makes it much easier. And that's usually also how I've moved around. Like, I never go hoping for something to come my way. I am usually very directional in the decisions that I make. And yeah, I mean, this first job, it really gave me the chance to understand how Berlin works, connect with the right people, and also see some of the negative aspects within the art world. I don't want to talk too much about this because it was eventually a very negative experience. The environment that I found myself in was very toxic. And that's also actually a situation that I know a lot of people in the art world suffer from because there are a lot of white men in charge that exploit employees and people in general. And that was already the environment when I got in the museum.
With the art work, we can say. It's really, really interesting to know that it's not easy to work in art. An environment can be very tough and challenging. It's a pity.
Yeah,
really.
Mostly within museums, because museums are like older institutions. That also mean that the people in charge are usually older, not just in terms of age, but also in terms of mentality.
So conservative, not so open, I understand. And what about German language? Actually, you can speak German, and could you find job? So tell about this aspect.
Yeah, I studied a bit of German already when I was in Austria, because I had the opportunity to take classes while I was doing my master's. And as I said, I love languages, so that's something that also comes a little easy to me. When I was in the museum, I was also using German on a daily basis because all meetings were in German, and they just decided to keep it that way. And it was fine for me because obviously you learn more with exposure. However, since when I stopped working there, I just got more involved in the art scene, and there are so many expats, actually most of them non-German speaking, and English has always been my most comfortable language, so I've been using this more than German. There is obviously a goal for me in terms of learning German fluently with the time, but we all know it takes a lot of time to learn this language. So it's a step-by-step situation.
So you're learning, yeah?
Yes.
What kind of level do you have now?
B1, basically, yeah.
Okay, but anyway, without high level of German language, you could find opportunities for you in Berlin.
Yes and no. I have to be very honest about this. I feel like there are environments where you can use English, but still Germans do like to keep their structure as it is, and there are a lot of jobs, if you start applying for jobs on LinkedIn in any industry, even in the art sector, that require fluent or native German. And without that, they will not even consider your CV. So that's also something that I've encountered as soon as I left the other job, that like, in order for me to really get into the scene, like just sending out CVs and trying to like explain to people that I'm motivated and I can learn the language was just not enough. It was much better to go there, meet the people, talk to them, show them who you are, show them you're capable, show them you're smart, and then have them believe in you regardless of the fact that you don't speak the language fluently yet.
Let's speak about art people, creative people in Berlin. And as you told, Berlin is a vibrant city. There are so many communities, so many activities, so many performances, exhibitions, and definitely art people can find solutions, can find opportunities here to build their career as a professional artist. But at the same time, as a visitor, I know that almost everything in Berlin are for free. or quite affordable. My question was, if everything are for free, how art people can survive, how they can earn money, how they can monetize their skills. And if you learn such a complex instrument as a violin, for example, but then you just play for free, for me it makes no sense, to be honest. So tell, from your perspective, what do you think about it?
There are several layers in this topic that I want to mention. First of all, when you see free events like this, it doesn't mean that the artists are not getting paid. Probably same goes for the concert. It's quite unrealistic that they're not getting paid at all. What happens usually is there are external fundings that go to the artist as well as to the institution in order for bigger audiences to experience it and in order for them to have that experience for free. So it doesn't necessarily mean that artists are not earning from this if you can visit galleries, exhibition spaces, or concerts for free. It's just different the way that the art market works. It's not focused on audience engagement that much or like revenue through audience. This is actually one of the things that I also wanted to talk about today. I feel like the art market has been working in the same way for hundreds of years. Which also has several layers. You know, like if you look from a broader perspective, you have auction houses on top that really define, if in terms of visual art, then if we talk about performance and music, it's an even broader topic. But auction houses are the ones that really establish what is the art market size in this moment in history. Then you have big galleries, big names, that are also very relevant for the understanding of what's happening in the art world right now, also understanding trends, understanding how collectors buy. Collectors are obviously the main source of revenue for visual artists. But then when you go into smaller scale, so let's talk about like artists in Berlin, it's all a matter of public funding they can apply to, and smaller collectors and finding community. And this is one of the things that I can really see changing right now, because, for instance, in Berlin, there was quite a big public funding for visual arts until 2024, and then it just started decreasing more and more and more and more. In 2025, it was 600K that was given from the city of Berlin to artists for public projects. This year, it's 20% less. And that's a lot if you think about the number of artists that are here and that are trying to make it, and these are the steps for them to make it. It always starts with public funding first, and then with finding collectors and people who are interested in your works, and galleries that want to represent you. But we're also seeing a lot of galleries closing in Berlin because they just can't afford the rent anymore. Galleries are also struggling a lot, which directly affects artists as well. And what I'm seeing happening a lot this year is that artists are really focusing more on creating their own communities because they can't rely that much on the way the art market and system has been working so far. They're trying to find alternative ways to still make a living and to still be able to do their art.
What do you think? Should artists and creative people always depend on subsidies, funding, support? Or it has to be something like a market-driving industry?
The art market always worked independently from this. Also, if, again, like auction houses, it's like the way they define the art market, it's dependent on speculation a lot. It's not really representative of the current economical situation because there's a lot of like games and trying to keep the prices high. So that's not really realistic. And if we look at emerging artists, it's also completely disconnected from what they're doing. So it doesn't really help them getting anywhere regardless. And yeah, I mean, that's also what we're trying to build with Weavii. And I know many other communities here in Berlin are doing the same. And I know many artists are also working in this direction, like artists becoming entrepreneurs, becoming influencers, trying to learn skills to gain more from their closer community and their audience. As we were saying before, this is not how it's been working until now, but this is definitely the next step if you want to be less dependent on fundings that are lacking right now and on structures that are just up in the air and not really connected to what you're doing. There is, my mentor from Interwiev used to tell me that within the startup environment, which I think it works for like every emerging artist or emerging project as well, if you think about the first people who are going to invest in you and in your idea, it's going to be close friends, family, and crazy people. And with crazy people, it doesn't mean like crazy people. It just means people who have the money and who are happy to support something that doesn't have any legacy, any status yet, doesn't have any security in terms of how the investment is going to go, but they believe in you. So these are the people that artists are currently looking for right now.
You know, I remember you write your own poetry. So what inspired you in Berlin to write a poetry?
Yes. So I express myself in a lot of different creative ways, as you can see. Poetry is just one of many, and I've just been writing since I was very young. I always have a notebook with me that I can take out and write little notes or little thoughts in there. My poetry is very introspective or very inspired by nature, landscapes, and things that make me feel home or happy or just any sort of emotion. I like to give words and images to emotions. And I've been keeping actually poems to myself for a very long time. I only share them with friends who could resonate a lot with them.
We were talking about how creative people find their path and build their careers in Berlin. And we were also touched on the idea that in many ways there isn't really a clear market or structured industry here. The system works quite differently. So it brings up an interesting question. Do you think creatives should depend on grants and public funding to survive? Or do you believe that today creatives also need to develop more entrepreneurial skills? And how important is it for creatives to understand things like marketing, branding, and building their own audience? What do you think?
I think that's definitely one way to go for the ones who have that social and entrepreneurial mindset, which I don't think any artist should be forced to in order to survive in this industry. However, for those who do, there are a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Globally, there's Sergio Gomez. I will send you the link afterwards. He's an art curator. He has a gallery in Miami, and he's an influencer. And all of his content on YouTube, Instagram, and everything is just about how can artists do this exactly, like become more visible through social media, become their own entrepreneurs. He talks about trends, he talks about things that can really help you practically. He's really good and super approachable. It's also a good friend of mine, so I highly suggest everyone who's interested in starting this journey to check out his account. Whereas here in Berlin specifically, I know Harshini. She's a great curator, and she just opened her agency that is called 3 AM Energy, and they do social media courses for artists. And again, they explain exactly all of this, and she's really great at it. So there are a lot of ways in which you can start if that's, if you feel inclined to do that. However, there is a part of me that like understands that if you're an artist, you don't want to spend all of your time promoting yourself, trying to sell yourself, because eventually that's what you're doing on social media. You're doing all the work that usually curators do, that usually galleries do. You are becoming your own, like an entrepreneur, but also you have to cover so many roles, and it's exhausting. And it's difficult to combine that with inspiration and creativity and being able to keep working on your art. I know a lot of artists that are doing this successfully, but I still don't think that that should be eventually the solution. Also, social media works in all of these algorithmic ways that we're very familiar with nowadays, and it doesn't allow for a democratized way for all artists to be seen to a certain extent equally. Obviously, that's not possible to be able to have everyone, to give everyone the same opportunities fully, but there should be still a more democratic way to do this. And that leads me to Weavii. Last year in summer, I met Fabio. He's also Italian, and he's the co-founder of this platform called Weavii. It's a startup. The platform has been launched, but it's still been adjusted and iterated because the vision is really big, and it requires a lot of time and a lot of work for it to become what we mean it to become. But it was exactly the solution that I was thinking about and that I was hoping for in this context and in this industry. In a nutshell, what is Weavii? Weavii is going to be the end-to-end platform for every sort of creative and cultural project. It starts with a matchmaking aspect. The idea is that within the platform you have all kinds of artists, meaning visual artists, performance artists, musicians, and also technicians, meaning every person, every entity that needs to be, that is usually involved in the creative scene and in creative projects. They need to be all into one platform in order to simplify the workflow. And then on the other hand, you have businesses or talent buyers or entertainment industries or all kinds of people that work with artists, basically, which if you think about it, it's a lot. Like there are a lot of people who work with artists on a constant basis, also for advertisement, more commercial projects, but not necessarily. And there isn't really one way to find the right artist for the right opportunity. The way this works nowadays, it's through connections, meaning I know someone who does that, so I'm going to ask that person. If they can't, they're going to ask someone else, and this can take a lot of time, and it's not necessarily also the most fitting solution. And through gatekeeping, which is something that, again, has been very fundamental in the art world in order to keep the speculation, in order to keep the hype, but it doesn't help emerging artists. So the idea is that through this platform, first of all, there's going to be a system through AI that really helps matching the right project with the right artist. Think of it as a mixture between LinkedIn and Fiverr. This is usually how I explain it. There are people that can write gigs onto the platform, and you can apply for this gig as an artist. You can create your portfolio on the platform, but you can also be matched for the perfect opportunity through several tags. It's a tag system that is used by AI. And then there will be all of the other steps of a creative collaboration in order to really simplify this, save time and resources, and make the more creative collaborations happening. Meaning contract making that really secures both sides, as well as payment systems, as well as general guidance. I've worked on a lot of creative projects. I've worked with a lot of artists, and I know that when there are people that are not really in the art scene trying to do a creative project, they don't know a lot of things. They don't know how pricing works. They don't know how much something should be paid. They don't know what things need to be considered beforehand in order for the project to be successful and not to run into issues later on. And the idea is to put all of this information into one platform so that everyone is guided from both sides. Also for emerging artists, for you to know that, like, for this specific project, this is the price range you should apply for. Not less, not more, which also helps just generally having a more democratic access to opportunities all over the world, because we're starting here in Berlin, but we're aiming for this platform to go globally and to really allow, again, everyone to connect with the person they need, the right creative they need on a global scale.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. I put the link to this platform in the description to this video. Anyway, everybody could reach this opportunity, and somehow I could understand what does platform provide for creative people. What platform provide for brands, for companies, because it has to be matched somehow. Yes?
Yes.
So what kind of advantages for brands?
Definitely saving time and resources, because if I think about my work, for instance, also in more commercial projects, there's a lot of time that is spent in, again, looking for the right artist, looking for the right technician, looking for the right, and there are several creative people that can be included in a project, right? From visuals to music to performance. There's a lot of players, and the search usually is, again, like done through Instagram, and that can take days or hours, or through friends of friends of friends.
Instagram. If I need photographer or videographer, I'm checking Instagram account and I see if I like this this art or not. Usually I'm doing like that.
And I mean, sure, that works, but it's, again, like it's not necessarily the most fitting photographer for your project. It's just the first one that you like, that you found on your feed. So it does allow saving time and resources in this way, as well as just with the whole contract making and guidance with the payment system. Like, it really allows for brands that haven't really worked with creatives until now to open this possibility for them in a very easy and seamless way. And for those who have already had experience working with artists, to just have, spend less time doing this and have a platform that can create that security, both in terms of like with contracts, making sure that everything that needs to be in there is in there without you having any legal background. And with a payment system by an escrow system that keeps the money until things are delivered, projects are delivered, in order to also allow for that security, because there's a lot of, I don't know, business techie people that don't necessarily trust artists that much. They think they're a bit unreliable. We did an event once.
Yeah, this is an issue. For me, is also, for example, if I'm looking for a photographer, it's very important for me that the person can at least punctual come to the location to make something. So it's a really important issue for brands and for companies.
The first event that I did with Weavii, because I started building a community here in Berlin by creating different kinds of event formats. And the first one was a quiz night with artists, where we were going to explore different questions regarding exactly the stereotypes that both sides have towards each other. So what do businesses think about artists and vice versa? And obviously, like, the most common stereotype is what I was mentioning before, that artists are unreliable, they're not punctual, they will not be able to deliver things on time. Whereas on the other hand, you have businesses just want to exploit artists, there's no artistic freedom or creative freedom in their project. And these are things that obviously have nuances. But the moment you have a platform that can regulate this, that can offer that trust for the business side, and can offer artists to feel seen by being matched with the right project and not just like any project that comes your way, it already makes this easier.
Dalila, we were also talking about the startup Weavii, where you are head of commercial. You shared how it creates value for artists and creatives, and also why it's interesting for brands. Can you now explain how your monetization model works? How do you actually generate revenue as a company?
The monetization model being, as I was mentioning before, a platform and a vision that is very big, and we're aiming to scale it globally. It's based much more on quantity than it is on a single payment. It is both a subscription model where once we will have all the tools functioning and enough businesses onto the platform, then businesses will have to pay a subscription per month in order to be able to access these tools and to make their work much easier. We're not talking about crazy high prices. We want it to be very competitive in the market in order for as many people as possible to access it. And there's also, in the beginning, before we get to the subscription model, there's also a percentage of the fees that the businesses pay to the artist that we will take. Also a very small percentage, also very competitive, because again, it's focused on having thousands of businesses and thousands or hundreds of thousands of artists using this platform, and not necessarily on monetizing from the individual. Also, the most important aspect of this is that the platform is not aiming to monetize from the artist side, which is something that I've seen from so many other platforms for artists. They try to do similar things where they do subscription for artists in order to be able to access the opportunity. We see it the other way around. Artists don't have to pay for this. I mean, obviously there will be tools like contracts and other aspects of the payment system that once we have established and in place, there will be like upgrades that you can access if you pay, or anything that really improves your work and makes it easier and more seamless. But just to access the opportunity and just to access the platform, we want it to be open for artists.
Thank you so much for your valuable insights today. It was quite interesting, and I'm sure it was interesting for our audience and for...
I hope so.
Anyone watching, thank you for being with us. If you like our conversation, don't forget to like this video and leave us comments what you think about this topic. And see you in the next episode of BerlinBiz.